Well, for our last speaker of this morning, I'm very happy to introduce Amanda Brown. Amanda Brown is one of these people who makes you sit down and say, man, I am just not doing enough in this movement. This is the sort of thing that Amanda does with her time. In 2011, at the SSA's conference in Columbus, Ohio, she had a vision for a kind of It Gets Better campaign for atheist students. And 2 nights later, the website We Are Atheism was launched. And how many videos have you collected so far?
We have almost 200 now.
Almost 200 videos, just in the 2 years since that program was launched. This is one of just a handful of things that Amanda has done. She's also highly involved with the SSA's affiliate group at the University of Kansas. She is a co-researcher with Dr. Darrell Ray in the Sex and Secularism study, and was also selected to appear in the Nude Revolutionary calendar as one of 3 other Americans in the entire feminist campaign there. Today she's going to talk about event planning, which is something she has plenty of experience with in her leadership role with SOMA, so I will let her take the stage.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today we're going to talk about how to plan a free event. So first thing that you want to start with, and this is the best thing you can do if you want to be a free event, you need to be a college or high school SSA affiliate. That's probably the best advice I can possibly give you. Because when you're working with SSA and you're a college or high school student, you got a lot of free stuff that can come your way. So a lot of project grants come. There's pretty SSA. When you're trying to get these grants, I typically try to go in person to talk to the administration of the college or the high school. They're going to be the ones that are going to yay or nay your event. And typically you might have a little bit of backlash since it's going to be a secular event, so you want to know ahead of time if they're going to do it or not, and if we need to get other organizations involved, or SSA needs to write them a strongly worded letter as to why your event should exist. 2, network with your local meetup groups. Go to meetup.com, enter in your zip code, search term atheist, humanist, secular humanist, brights, etc. There's tons of different search terms you can use in order to find adult meetup groups. The reason you want adult meetup groups is because they have money. Typically college students and high school students do not have money. And the little bit of money you do have, you don't want to spend it throwing your own conference. So find the adults who have a steady income on meetup.com and other various places, and network like crazy. Just constantly talk to them, get to know them, get to know kind of what they're interested in and things like that, so that way when you are planning your free event, you know you're going to pick something that they're going to want to come and see as well as support monetarily. Pick a date. This is something that you need to do at the bare minimum 3 months in advance. And that's if you're an amazing planner like me and have done it years on end, and you know what to do and who to contact and can get it done really quickly. Otherwise, a year to 8 months in advance, that's a good time to start planning it. I know that seems like a long way out, but you would be surprised all of the little hiccups that'll come when you're planning your first event and even the second event when you think you've already gotten them figured out. A good resource that has just popped up is secularaction.org. Michael Trolin is the one who came up with this website, and he basically contacted about 100 different events and got their information, their dates, and who to contact and how to register and all that jazz. So you have to go to his homepage, click on events, and it'll come up and look like this. And you'll see, the date of, SSA Con West. And that's where we are now, in Oklahoma City. And that's kind of what he's trying to do, is get conferences to come to him, give them the date, and that way you can know whether or not you can have your conference on the same weekend as something else. You don't want to have, my rule is if there's a 3-hour driving distance between your date and the other date of another conference, then you don't want to hold it on the same day, because you're going to lose patrons that way. They're going to go to what's closest, and people travel typically about 3 hours for a free conference. Pick a theme is a good idea if you're doing a 1-day conference or a 2-day conference. Sometimes when you do the 3 or 4 days, like Skepticon went above and beyond last year and did like 3.5 days. So picking a theme for that is just ridiculous. You couldn't get that many people to talk on the same subject and still keep an audience. But when you do something for like a 2-day kind of conference, you can pick a theme. Reason Fest 2, we did humanism. because it was very underrepresented. And if you think back to 2012, humanism and the chaplaincy and writing of their tenets was all coming out at that time. So we tried to go with what was mainstream and people were interested in. And then Skepticon, well, that's the SK5 one. I was supposed to talk about Skepticon 4. That's still Skepticon 5. Okay, I put the wrong picture in. But Skepticon 4, actually, what they tried to do with that one was stick more with an atheist viewpoint instead of what they'd done previously, which was skepticism all the time. And then they kind of went back to it in Skepticon 5. And then what ReasonFest did this last year was we did modern morality. We took a bunch of different religions and a bunch of different people and had them discuss their different worldviews based on morality, whether that's subjective or objective. And we had debates and a giant panel with a Muslim and a Hindu and an atheist and a Christian and something else that I don't remember. But it's really good to try and have a theme as loosely packed together as you can. Then you need to choose where you're going to have your event. When you are on a college campus, typically the college will give you that space for free, but they won't give you like the person controlling the sound. Sometimes you'll have to pay for that. You'll have to, or you can get someone in your group if they know how to run a soundboard, get them to do it, because they'll be okay. The schools are okay with you doing it yourself, but there are schools that will make you pay for them to do things like that. So at KU, we use Woodruff Auditorium. It seats 500 people. That's about our draw right now. That's how many we drew last year. We're thinking of moving to a bigger space, but we don't need it quite yet. Skepticon goes to the Expo Center because that's basically an unlimited amount of people. They can have 5,000 people show up to their conference if they needed it, and there'd still be space for them. That's why they go to the Expo Centers, because they were the first free conference. They are great at what they do, and last year they had 1,200 people, and this year they're probably going to have 1,500 people. It grows exponentially each time. Midwest FreeThoughtCon in Omaha, they hold it on their campus, but they actually don't use the student union. That's what KU uses, and that's what here at UNLV uses. A lot of people end up getting their student union because there's a theater inside the union. That's not the case in the University of Omaha. They end up having to use just a meeting space that just happens to be on campus. It's not an auditorium, so it's just like tables and chairs all in circles, and you kind of get to see the screen, and the vendors are at the very back of the room. It's not a fun setup, but that's all they get. And then of course here at UNLV, it's a pretty good setup. We got rooms in a theater. It's always good. After you have your date and your venue, then contact your speakers. Don't contact your speakers first and be like, can you come and talk to me and tell me when you're available and then schedule around them? Because that's not going to work, because you'll end up with 12 speakers who are available in 12 different months. And so it's not going to work out for you at all. And the reason I put B-list speakers is because those are the ones that you can most likely get to come to your event for free. Those are the people that are within driving distance, that maybe your group personally knows, and you know that group is, that speaker is going to come and talk to something that's very relevant to you. A great Speakers Bureau list is the Secular Student Association Speakers Bureau. They have a really cool way of finding them. You have all of these different icons. There's also a list with little icons next to it, who costs money, who doesn't cost money, how much their honorarium might be. SSA does a great job of telling you where the speakers are and how to find them and things like that. CFI does have speakers as well on their Speakers Bureau, but I will tell you, not that I want to badmouth anybody, but SSA has an easier time getting those speakers through their bureau than it is with CFI. But they're working on it. They're getting better. I always tell people to make a mock schedule when they're trying to plan a huge event that's going to be over a few days, because once you have those speakers, you put them in times so they know when roughly they're going to be speaking. They know that that's most likely going to change, especially when you're planning it 6 months in advance, because you don't know who's going to drop out or if you're going to get somebody to email you that wants to come and talk. That's something that ReasonFest had a problem with last year, is we had too many people contact us to come and speak. So we actually had to tell speakers no, which is great. They all came and spoke for free. So that's not really a problem, no. But making the mock schedule really helps, because it helps your venue, place, know kind of how long you plan to be there, what you're talking about, why they need to, give you the discount that you're getting, or if you're going to a university or at a high school, why they should waive their community fee because it's an educational conference and things like that. You just have to meet with the person that's going to be organizing the conference with you at that facility and develop a great rapport with them, because if you don't, they're not as likely to give you the free stuff. And that just takes kind of learning how to persuade people to give you stuff for free. Cool things to use to make your mock schedule that help you collaborate with your volunteer group working on creating the event, which needs to be about 3 to 8 people. Don't do less than 3 people. Don't do what I do, which I did the first year, was do it all on my own and then beg for help at the last minute. That's not a good idea. Don't do that. Get at least 3 or 4 people that you know you can trust, that are going to be very organized and want to do things on time and self-propelling on their own. That's what you're looking for. Google Docs is great because you can share, like up in that top right corner, the top right corner, and you have comments right next to it, so you can just basically highlight what you have a question on, and then you'll have a comment that shows up in the comment section, and then you guys can talk back and forth live. You don't have to wait unless they're not on, but you don't have to wait for them to communicate with you. Google Apps in general have tons of collaborative software for free. One thing, when we try to come up with a theme for ReasonFest, we use MindMeister. It's an online mind mapping tool. It's fun, for one, it's just fun to use. But it basically sets up that whole thought process for you, and then you just fill in the bubbles until you settle on something. Like, we couldn't figure out what to title the debate with, so we used MindMeister and just kept going and going until we got to moral combat. So it's a really great tool. And then Meeting King is another thing. If you are the one in charge of all the different meetings for your volunteers to come to, Meeting King is great. You can put on each line what you want to talk about, how long you want to talk about it, as well as who's supposed to be presenting on that topic when you've delegated all of that out, as well as adding to it, and then it'll update itself for your next meeting. It's great, and it's free, so always want to use things that are free. Also, both of those apps you can get on your phone, which is another great thing. Try and find the apps that are portable. If you have a smartphone, use it to your advantage. Don't just use it to play games. Use it to your advantage, because the more compatible you have your things, the more hooked together you guys are, and the more communication that you guys do, the better your event's going to be. That's how you end up with an event with no hiccups. I mean, there's probably always going to be a hiccup, but as little as humanly possible. After you have all of that stuff done, you call your speakers, you set their time in stone, and when we say stone, it's like a pencil. It's like a pencil on a piece of paper. It's erasable. Chisel it away. You need to be very detailed with your speakers once you've got that list intact, once you know what time you're starting. Like SSA is amazing. They start at 10. But a lot of other conferences make you get up at the crack of dawn, and you start at 8 a.m., and I feel so bad for those speakers because none of us are awake or paying attention. So be very, very detailed. Tell them what you're going to do for them. Are you going to pay for their hotel? Are you going to pay for their food? Are you going to pay for their flight over here? Or are you going to be working with SSA and they need to be talking with SSA on how much money their honorarium is or what they need? The reason we say free conference is because it's free to the patrons. It's not free for you. There's no way to throw a conference without some form of a cost, whether it's your speakers, your hotel, or something, but you try to negotiate that down as little as humanly possible. ReasonFest runs on less than $10,000 budget every year because we've figured out a way to get our campus to basically donate everything to us. We fundraise just on our own, we fundraise probably only about $1,000. Otherwise, it's through big donors, the school, and other modes that you can find through SSA or CFI or Richard Dawkins Foundation, Camp Quest. They're all willing to really help out when it comes to funding the free conference because more people attend a free conference than they do one that they have to pay for. And you can get more people from just around the community to show up than you would have had you had to charge them $55 to get in. Here's an example of what Skepticon did a couple years ago for their speakers list. And this is what Reason-vested. And this was last year, and this is what we were talking about. We had so many speakers, so many people. Our advertising is like, it was crammed. So hopefully that doesn't happen again. But if you get people to email you to speak for free, then take them. Advertising. That is probably the most important aspect of your conference after the venue, a date, speakers. You need to advertise like crazy. You may think like getting 500 flyers is a lot, but you have to think about marketing and how percentages work. Typically only 2 to 3% of people actually look at and respond to any type of advertising. So Voss Visuals that you saw up there is a great company. They actually give discounts to atheists and their organizations in order to give you awesome swag and flyers and all these great things that you can see here. T-shirt designs, logos, anything your heart could possibly desire to throw your event, they can do. For your strategy for advertising, depending on what you're going for, like SOMO, we go to everybody. We want 0 to 120 because we work with Camp Quest. We tried to get Richard Dawkins Foundation this last year, but we didn't really have any children sign up, so we didn't need it. But you want to figure out, are you marketing to the students on campus? Are you marketing to high school students on your campus? Or are you just going to go after adults? Or are you going to try and do a day camp with Camp Quest and have that be your thing going on? So are you marketing to children and their parents? So you have to think about that, and when you figure that out, that's when you get all this cool stuff to advertise what you're doing. Banners, programs, flyers, get your logo done. Website is like the most important thing. Everybody goes to the internet anymore. They don't want to be handed something that like a giant brochure that they're going to open and it looks like a giant map, and no, that's not going to work. They'd rather just go to www.freeconference.com and see that. If you need help with graphics, then the perfect thing to do is to call Voss Visuals. It takes them about a half an hour and they take a discount off, and it's really not expensive at all to have Adam Brown do that for you. Postcards are much better than flyers. They're thicker. They come with a UV coating on them. So if you get them through Voss Visuals, I know that. But they're a lot better because they fit in someone's back pocket typically. They're 4x6, and you can put a lot of information on just one thing because you have two sides. Whereas on a flyer, you have like a picture, a little bit of text, and like a QR code so they can find out more information. For all campuses, chalk is probably your most important tool. You will go through a lot of chalk, as long as they allow you to write on the ground. Don't write on the buildings. That's not a good choice. We found out the hard way. Do a Facebook page and all other free social media. Tumblr is also a good place to go. Pinterest, oddly enough, even though it's just pictures, when you put up pictures of your advertising material, people do like them and they do share them, and they'll pin them on their wall. YouTube is great. I'll show you in a little bit what people have done with YouTube in order to advertise for their event. Twitter, that's great. Reddit used to be great. Their new rules has made it a little more difficult, so if you know how to go around that, then great. MailChimp is probably another great email tool. It's completely free. You can have up to 3,000 subscribers before you have to pay for anything. And they look completely professional, as if you are a real organization. Well, you are a real organization, but you know what I mean, like a really important organization like Richard Dawkins Foundation with cool graphic material. And it's very easy to use and will make you just look much better. You can even do tickets for your event even though it's free. They can print them off through an email. It's really great. Press releases are important for your newspaper or online newspaper. If you don't know how to write a press release, SSA helps you do that. Or you can just go to your journalism department and find someone who's awesome and they'll write it for you. But SSA has had a lot of experience, so I would choose them over random college student. Your advertising cost should be somewhere between $500 and $3,000, depending on how much you want to advertise. If you want to do the whole gamut, and you're going to have banners and flyers and everything, you're going to be looking at a high advertising cost. But all you really need is like a banner, 500 postcards, especially if it's your first event. You don't need all of that all at once. As you grow, you're going to need more, so your cost is going to go up. Fundraising. Yay! Fundraising is awesome. SSA makes this easy. Their project grant is awesome. Love the project grant. $1,400. You fill out the form and send them the information as to why you deserve the project grant, which honestly, Reasonfest didn't do that great of a job last year because we've asked for it the past 3 years, so we don't really try anymore. But it's really easy to fill out. But if you're doing like a one-day event where you're just having a couple of speakers come in, SSA does do speaker grants, and they're up to $400, and you get 2 a year, and that's it. So kind of be careful how you use those, because you may want those for just a speaker to come in and speak to your organization rather than like a giant community event. So you go to secularstudents.org/grants, and you should be able to find it. The reason I put the website information up there is because the little button that you used to click on for Speakers Bureau, I couldn't find. So I think it might have accidentally disappeared. But I'm sure now that I've said this in this video, it's going to automatically pop up and be right there for you. Center for Inquiry, their website is difficult to navigate, which is why I also put their full web address up on the screen as well, because you can go ahead and find it through their resources, but it's just difficult. You might as well just click here. It's a lot easier. Your Student Senate. Almost every college has some form of government, and even high schools have a form of government, and they're given a budget. KU's is about a couple $1 million is how much the Student Senate controls. So you go to them and you tell them why your event is educational, why they should support it, who your speakers are, how much these speakers cost, and try to tell them exactly what everything is about, so that way they'll want to fund you as much as humanly possible. This last year we got about $4,000 from Student Senate because we had a proven record of attendance and education. Other colleges strike deals with Coca-Cola and Pepsi. These are probably the least known types of funding because nobody thinks about going to the soda company that's sponsoring the school. But typically they strike a deal with the college in order to be that provider on campus of the only soda. They fund educational events and they do what's called gap coverage. And it's whatever your organization can't pay for. And you figure out that amount, you meet with them in person, and you tell them why, and it's usually about 6 to 8 weeks in advance that you go for Coca-Cola funding. If you go sooner than that, then they tend to not fund you immediately.
How do we initiate that?
Coca-Cola or Pepsi, you will go to your college's website, and they'll have you can usually search funding in the search term for the website, and then they'll come up with different things. The admin office will give you the information when you choose your venue of different sources of funding, but you have to ask them for it. Otherwise, they assume you know. Go ahead.
I've been through all the sources of funding, through all the grants, everything through my campus, and I've never heard of this. So I'm curious to think.
This is something I've never heard of before. So just maybe unique to Kansas.
I've been in and out.
Omaha has it. Maybe it might be a Midwest thing. Maybe it's Midwest, but it is something that is searchable. Coca-Cola's sponsored us all 3 years. So I can get you that information from the University of Kansas to maybe transfer over to the other colleges. But it is something they told us that if they are on your campus, they provide that. So, I see, we don't know about Pepsi. They told us that Pepsi does it too, but who knows? Mm-hmm. Restaurant percentage nights. I know this sounds weird, and you only typically get 10 to 15% back, but they work with schools all the time. Sometimes you can't get them to sponsor you because of the organization that you're with, but if you can talk to the manager, again, set a rapport with them, let them realize how nice you guys are, they'll kind of work with you. McDonald's, Burger King, Fazoli's, Applebee's, the big chain restaurants are always typically ready to work with you. Here's a list of other ones that are typically chain-wise or willing to work with you. If you have local restaurants that a lot of your group members attend, they'll work with you too. So they may not be a big chain and can offer the same amount of discounts, but they'll do something for you if they like your group and you're not rowdy and cause a lot of problems, like we did on one time. The Soul Auction, Stone a Heathen, and a bunch of other fundraising ideas are on SSA's website as well as their Facebook page. I like to go to their Facebook page for fundraising ideas because those are typically the newest ones that people have thought of. We did Stone a Heathen and we've done Soul Auction. It just depends on where you are in the country as to how well received they are. Soul Auction, not very well received in KU. Stone a Heathen, also not very well received. But we did still raise money doing it, and we still brought people in. They just didn't warm up very well to it. And there's always fun things like singing on a street corner, walking around asking for spare change, anything that doesn't get you arrested. That is important. Do not get arrested trying to get money for your event. Although all press is good press, right? Not in this situation. No, don't get arrested. But we actually did have one of our people go and sing on the street corner, and he did a great job. He was singing Justin Bieber songs in a tiny Justin Bieber shirt, and people loved it. So he made like $50. It's college. That's pretty good. I wrote confirm 3 times because that is something you can't do enough. I don't know what it is with speakers sometimes. Even I do it. We forget what we're doing, where we're supposed to be, or what we're even talking about. So what we do with Reason Fest is we have them fill out a form that is exactly all of that. What are you speaking on? What is the title? What is your bio? Do you need us to get a picture from you directly, or can we steal one off of Facebook? All of those questions easily done in Google Forms. Google Forms is absolutely free. Yeah, Google Forms is awesome. So if you don't do that, this may happen. They may get very, very angry and upset at you when you leave them at the airport. So next is to be very creative. Always try something new. We brought Keith Lil Jensen in from just me finding him on the internet. He had never come to the Midwest before. He'd never really done atheist conferences, and now he's doing them all over the place. He loves it. Take a Chance, Godless Pervert's Story Hour in Kansas. It was as well received as you would think. We got a lot of backlash from people like, why would you do this? But in the end, it turned out to be really good. People liked it. Advertise using ponies, if you feel like it. Katie Hartman did a cute little video on it, and it's kind of taken off, and it's gotten associated with Skepticon a little bit. And then here's what you can do with YouTube. Make a commercial. Apostacon made a commercial. These are all atheists sitting in their food court, and when you play it, they all just start randomly dancing with the flying spaghetti monster, and they've got children involved. It's great.
So, flying spaghetti monster, Harlem shit.
Yeah. And what we like to do is to give back during our conferences. We always like to have a philanthropy aspect, whether it's the new Atheists Giving Aid, which I run, or working with Foundation Beyond Belief, or going to your local homeless shelters, humane societies, elderly care facilities, VFWs, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of people do the first 2, and they never think about the others. So if you can do VFW, go for it. Extra stuff is like putting a map in your program, going to restaurants and finding that 10% discount that they can have on that day, giving everyone an ID tag so we can find each other and know what our names are. Cool places to advertise are like libraries, coffee shops, Whole Foods, all that jazz. And then we have vendors. This is probably where most of your funding will come, other than from your Student Senate and SSA. You get vendors to come and sponsor your event. Atheist Alliance International loves coming. Be Secular is a new one. They want to start doing more secular women. I have a lot. Foundation Beyond Belief. National Atheist Party likes to sponsor. American Atheists always sponsor. Find your local director and they'll sponsor. CFI. Evolve Fish is great for merchandise. Rich Dawkins Foundation is great for merchandise as well, especially because they do consignment, whereas Evolve Fish, you actually have to have them come all the way out and they sell what they sell and then they leave. They won't mail you things. We Are Atheism will come and we bring an awesome closet that you can come out of. It's fantastic. You should have us always come to your event and give us a free table so we don't get poor. Secular Coalition for America loves to come out. When you are doing a free event, like what Reason Fest does is we work with Skepticon and Apostacon, and we switch booth space. We all have free events, so instead of charging each other, we just allow each other to be at each other's conferences, and so nobody loses any money. It's like a net neutral. We're coming from Religion Loves Going to Conferences, and this is what you kind of tell your sponsors when you're going when you try to tell them what they can get. This is what we did last year based on the fact that we had 500 to 700 people showing up for the conference. If this is your first conference, expect 100 or less. So you don't want to charge exorbitant prices like $200 for a table. A sponsor knowingly, when they know that it's your first conference, they're not going to want to pay $200 to have a table where they most likely won't get very much exposure. So you would probably start with $50 for that table. So that way it's affordable for them to come out to that first conference and get the exposure and draw the people in. As you can see on here, we did a cool little platinum level, which was the first fun idea that we had. It had $1 million value because you got to go and have an all-expense-paid dinner with the speaker of your choice. Nobody did that one, but we thought it was fun, and most people honestly did the silver package up here, which is $250. I found with most free conferences, the sponsors tend to go somewhere between $50 and $300 for a table, and that's about as far as you can get them to go. After that, you've got to be offering something really awesome for them to, I mean, you have to be at Skepticon level with about 1,200 people to pay the $1,000 fee that they charge for their booth space. But that's basically everything in a nutshell, very, very quickly, on how to throw your own free event. Thank you.